Susan Morrison. I'm the articles editor of The New Yorker, and on behalf of the magazine, I'm happy to welcome you to the 17th Annual New Yorker Festival and tonight's conversation with David Letterman. Please silence your phones and remember that no flash photography is allowed tonight. We'll be up here talking for about 90 minutes, and we'll leave some time in those minutes for questions from the audience. If you'd like to tweet or otherwise share this event, please use the hashtag TNYFest. Okay, my boss, David Remnick, my boss, David Remnick, likes to say that the two inventions of the 20th century that changed the way we live more than anything else are kitty litter and air conditioning. Now, I'd have to add to that list David Letterman, who is without question the most original television voice of his generation. I don't think he needs any more introduction than that. I'm sure you agree. So please welcome David Letterman.
Look under your seats for your special Tiffany gift box. Never been compared to kitty litter. Off to a flying start.
Do you know what I discovered today when I was looking up to make sure that kitty litter was indeed a 20th century invention? It was invented the year you were born. I'm not kidding.
1946.
Anyway, well, here we go.
First of all, thank you very much for thinking of me. It's a great honor, a great privilege, and I can't tell you how nice it is to be out of the house.
Well, we're so glad that you're here. You even put on the nice shiny shoes.
Thank you.
Just
yes,
beautiful.
New shoes.
Great. Well, I'm going to start with a question that I know every single person in this audience would like to know the answer of, which is, what did you do today? What do you do now?
Well, what I did today is different from what I do now. Today I got up at the crack of dawn and very excited about this event. And we have two dogs, yellow labs. One's name is Dutch, one's name is Sully. And I took them for a long run, and that's, for dog owners, you understand that that's a euphemism. And we got that taken care of. And then I myself went for a long run. And that isn't a euphemism, by the way. And then I got on a train and I came to the greatest city in the world, and here I am in this lovely theater talking to you folks. Thank you again.
Okay. Well, we'll talk a little later to what your normal post-television day is like. But you know, when I learned that you had agreed to come and talk to us today, at first I was thinking, why would you want to do this? I was scratching my head. And then it came to me, and I don't know, you tell me if I'm right. I thought, Donald Trump. And I assume you must miss the platform, the ability to be able to sound off on the news of the day.
Well, yes and no. First of all, God bless Trumpy. Secondly, it would be never ending. I mean, it would be the lead story of every show. And it's been running now for a year and a half, and will go far beyond November. So while it might be fun here and there to drop something in, I don't know if I have the stamina for a full plate of Trumpy night in and night out. And I said when this began, this is the kind of, this problem will solve itself. And I firmly believe that, and perhaps there are Trump supporters in the House, perhaps there are anti-Trump folks in the House. Please don't take any offense at this, but there's not a chance in hell that this man will be elected president. And if he is, I'll get you all a lovely gift from Tiffany.
I'm sure you know that Hillary Clinton has been using a clip from your show of you in one of her ads. It's you talking to Trump about how his neckties and other goofy merchandise that he sells is not made in the USA. Did you get a kick out of that?
Yes, I did. I didn't know about it until I started watching the Olympics, and it seemed to be featured in the Olympics every night. And I was flattered, but I must say all credit for that goes to the segment producer, who 3 or 4 years ago put that together, a kid by the name of Brian Tetta. And that, by the way, is sort of my career in television in a nutshell. I always drove the car that others built for me.
Okay. Well, on one of Trump's appearances, and I can't remember if it's the time you brandished the neckties to him or another one, you got into a conversation with him where you ended up calling him a racist,
yes.
right? And at that point he said he would never come back on your show. Fill me in on the chronology of, and how was that resolved?
All right, Susan, let me just say one thing. As I've grown older, I find that I talk endlessly, but I have very little to say. So this is going to take some time.
Good.
Donald Trump was a fixture on our show, and I think the old show, the one we did at NBC and then the one we did at CBS. And he was a beloved guest. People got excited. I think it was the allure or the pose of a billionaire. Oh my God, it's a billionaire. It was his hair. We used to make fun of his hair. I used to, sitting right there where you are, I would refer to him as a slumlord. And we got to love having Trumpy on because he could really take a punch. I mean, there wasn't anything. I was asking him about being married to Marla Maples. And he said, if you're interested, I'll give you her phone number. It was all Trump all the time. So then he started messing around with the birther and how did a guy like Barack Obama get into Columbia? How did a guy like him get into Harvard? And these questions, and it wasn't an original thought to myself. I heard other people smarter than myself break down the innuendo of that, the nuance of what he was talking about. And then we get to talking about it one night on the show without Trumpy, and I said, well, if he's a racist, maybe we shouldn't invite him on the show, being full well-meaning that if he is in fact a racist. So then I had to call Don because he wasn't coming back on the show, and I said, Don, I don't think you're a racist because I think you're too smart. I said, I think smart people are not racists. And he said, well, of course, I'm smart, I'm not a racist. I said, well, there you go, you've proven my point. So come back and be on the show. And he came back and he was on the show 2 or 3 times after that, and I thought the deal was done. I thought, okay, I called him out, he's too smart to be a racist. He said, yeah, I'm too smart to be a racist. Well, I was wrong.
Right. He's clearly a racist now.
Well, I tell you, and I said this the other day, talking to a kid from the New York Times. In the beginning, and we've heard Trump running for president over and over again, and we always thought, and it would be good fun. And then he opens up and he talks about the building the wall and the evil people coming from Mexico and wherever else. And when that happened, I thought, okay, this will take care of Donald. He's done there. Or at the very least, somebody will say, Don, we need to talk to you a little bit about what you said regarding Mexicans. Just don't hit that so hard next time. You know, I thought if he was really in it, somebody with some brains would, but that didn't happen. And then the next thing that I found unconscionable, actually unconscionable, was he physically mocked a man who was a reporter from the New York Times who suffers, I believe, a congenital birth defect. And I just thought, forget it's Donald Trump, forget he's running for president, forget who he is, forget what he is, man or a woman. If you can, in a national forum, with great confidence, stand there and make fun of someone suffering a disability over which they have no control all their entire life, then you are a badly damaged human being. And that's what I believe in.
Your show pioneered the idea of the concept of found humor. You find humor in delis and shop signs and license plates, and Trump is a perfect example of human found humor, a ridiculous blowhard fathead who, you know, made good television, obviously. Do you ever feel, I mean, I think all of us in the media who sort of have been having fun with his idiocy to a certain extent, we're now, I mean, I think we're all kind of thinking, you know, was it too much fun? Are we somehow guilty? Do you ever worry that you kind of, along with the rest of us, have kept him afloat by poking at him like a pinata?
Because in any other walk of life, he would be ostracized. You would not go near a person who behaved this way. I believe the fact that he is still in it. I think our good friends at the Republican Party, well, I think they found their 2020 candidate in governor of my former home state, Mike Pence. But it's like, we don't want the circus to leave town. This is too much fun. So let's just keep saying. But I don't think it will come to anything. I think it was David Brooks, a columnist for the New York Times, who formed this notion for me, which is he will win the nomination, and then in the general election, he will be crushed by historic proportions. And I believe that. I just believe that we're having too much fun, but when it comes time to vote one's conscience, it just won't happen.
Well, to stay
on the other hand, what a wonderful exercise in democracy. Anybody in this country can grow up to become president. I mean, you know, he did nothing illegal that we can at least pin on him. But and somehow he was able to beat up on all of his Republican. He should have been forced out of the Republican Party. Say, Don, just run your own party, and good luck to you on that.
Well, to stay on this subject of our entertainment, you know, entertainment industrial complex using Trump as a, you know, to entertain ourselves with, how do you feel about the way Jimmy Fallon took a lot of criticism in the last few weeks after having Trump on the show and basically joking around with him and not challenging him? Do you think that it's the obligation of a late night host to ask a demagogue tough questions, or is it an entertainment show?
Well, it's up to the late night host. If it had been me, I would have been all over him. I would have gone right after him because, and maybe it's different for others, but I have I've known Donald Trump for years. I mean, I've been in the city for 35 years, and he was a guest on every show, so I've known him. I have a relationship. I would feel completely confident and completely comfortable saying, what are you doing? What the hell is wrong with you? You need an appointment. Get yourself an appointment. Get yourself some therapy. Get yourself a goddamn diagnosis and get a prescription. You can't be walking around like this.
If only we could get him up here right now. And there's probably even a shrink in the house. I know that you're a fan of Lester Holt, and I'm wondering if you know, speaking of hosts and talking to Trump, how do you feel he handled Trump at the debate? I know there was a sense that he was a little bit absentee.
Well, I'm not quite sure what the expectation is for a presidential debate host. Do you lay back and be courteous to the two people running for the highest office in the world? Do you insert yourself? Do you intervene? Are you in fact a referee? I'm not sure. I mean, I can remember reading after Matt Lauer did the presidential had the back-to-back deal, and I watched it and I thought, well, it seems all right to me. And then turns out it wasn't perceived that way. Lester Holt, I mean, I kind of put myself in that position, and God knows I would screw it up. So I can't comment about that. I think really the moderator is the least of it. You know, it's the impression, it's the first impression, and I think they can actually have these debates without a moderator.
I wonder if that's just a function of us all having a little bit of fatigue over the story. You know,
it's just tiresome, isn't it?
No, I'm thinking about Tom Lehrer once said that political satire became obsolete the day Henry Kissinger was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And, you know, and you feel a little bit like, I feel a little bit like that with Trump being the nominee. I mean, reality has jumped the shark. Can we even keep doing this for the next month? You know, making fun of it and reporting on it.
Well, I mean, let's look at it a different way. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, what would this campaign be? How much fun would it be? If you pick one of the 17, how much would we really be having fun? You know, Marco Rubio. Oh, did you hear what Marco Rubio said today? He went out and bought lifts for his shoes. Look out! I mean, we've got a crazy man running for office.
Now, I know you've had Hillary Clinton on your show
Yes.
over the years quite a bit. What's she like as a guest? How do you
Hillary
feel about
Clinton
her?
and her husband, I'll take them one at a time. Hillary Clinton has always, and this is the nature of humanity, she's always treated me very nicely, been very kind to me, been very frank with me, been very smart, and so I have nothing but the highest regard for her. I hope she, when she's elected, will be a good president. I have every reason to believe, let's just say she's not the perfect candidate. Who has been the perfect candidate? Her husband, Bill, has been on the show, and I can remember the first time he was on the show, I was scared silly, because he was
he
on.
the first president you had on?
We had George Bush before he was elected. We had Jimmy Carter on at NBC, and I think we had, was FDR on? I don't know. So I'm scared silly because I'm thinking, oh my God, it's two-term Bill Clinton. He's got the Bill Clinton global thing, and people are gonna. And so we sat down, and I asked him one question, and the next thing I said was, "Thanks for being here." so I stopped worrying about Bill Clinton from that point on because the man can yak.
What we were just talking about a minute ago, the Fallon and these candidates being on late night shows, I think has opened an interesting debate about whether comedians or talk show hosts should function as public intellectuals. I think we're kind of tending in that direction, you know.
Yeah.
And these days, Samantha Bee, Amy Schumer, Jon Stewart, you know, Judd Apatow with his anti-Cosby crusade. Do you think, is this a good thing for the Republic, or?
Well, I remember when this was first called to my attention, and when you're doing a daily television show, or at least when I was doing a daily television show, you deprive yourself of the opportunity to look around and see what the world is. Because you're just thinking, okay, in the act one, we're going to do so-and-so, and then somebody will come out, and then that'll explode, and then we get Doris Henry plugging her new movie. So you don't know. And friends of mine were invited by Al Gore. Then I think I don't remember, he was out of office at that point. He was getting ready to run for president. And he put together, he was teaching a class at Columbia, and he invited a bunch of us to come up there. And the premise of that class was, do more people in America today get their news and opinions from comedy shows than from network news programs or 24-hour news channels? And I sat there and argued with him because I thought, you're nuts. This is like saying, would you rather watch Howdy Doody, or would you rather watch the McNeil-Lehrer Report? It just didn't make any sense to me. But he was absolutely right. And I think the avant-garde of this was Jon Stewart, and then the Stephen Colbert show after that. And then we all kind of fell in line. I mean, Jay Leno was doing political jokes. Carson did political jokes, but it was interesting. I think during the Vietnam War, he had an unofficial, unwritten thought that during his opening monologue, he would never mention Vietnam. He would mention General Westmoreland. He would mention the president, but he never liked to invoke the war itself. I think that all is gone now.
Do you think that was because he didn't want to be politicized, or he just wanted America to have a respite from that, because they were seeing it on the news?
Yes, he saw himself. This was prior to Ted Koppel with Nightline. So, as you may recall, the 6 o'clock news, I can remember well sitting with my mom and dad and sisters watching the 6 o'clock news or the 6:30 news, and the black and white 16mm footage coming from Vietnam was horrendous. And then people would get another dose of that at 11. And I think Johnny, rightly so, thought, you know what, they're not going to hear it.
Well, commentators commentators have noted that in the last 10 years of your time on the air, there seemed to be a slight drift toward the left, and I think you were completely apolitical in your comedy when you started. I'm wondering, is that because of this new strain that Jon Stewart opened up, or does it have something to do more with you being a father and a husband and caring more about everything at stake?
Which answer makes me look better?
Two.
I just, in the beginning, I followed Carson's example. We're just not going to do political humor, because when I started doing television, a comic doing political humor was, boy, that Ronald Reagan, he's old, isn't he? And that would be the extent of it. Over the years, it's become far more knowledgeable, far more sophisticated. And as I got to meet people who came on the show, Tom Brokaw is a huge influence on me. Brian Williams is a huge influence on me. Rachel Maddow is a huge influence on me. President Clinton, his wife, Mitt Romney was on the show. You suddenly, maybe it's just a late maturation. You grasp what we're talking about here under the banner of politics. Because when you're a kid, you don't really know exactly what you think, oh, well, that won't affect me. Well, by God, geez, it really does affect you. And having a child, there's many things. Well, I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody who's got kids knows that the horizon of concern is endless. So, yeah, have I answered the question?
You have, very well.
See, this is what I'm talking about. I'll just talk all night. You just stop me.
I'm just sitting here with my clipboard.
Time we go, yeah.
Have you kept up with the sea of late night shows? Do you watch?
What do you mean by kept up?
Do you watch them?
No, I've not seen them.
Okay, because I'm not.
Well, let me amend that. I was a guest years and years ago on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, so when I was there, I guess that counts as having watched it.
You watched it, obviously.
Yeah, sort of like I'm watching this show here tonight.
Because one of the things that's different about the crop of late night shows out there now is they seem to me, I never stay up late enough to watch them, and I'm not very good with the DVR.
Yeah, that's my excuse now, too.
But they seem to exist to create this kind of batch of YouTube clips that everybody watches the next day. And, I mean, part of your career as a host was pre-internet, but it strikes me that you never were chasing that kind of viral thing. You never.
You're right, Susan. And people, network people and staff people would say exactly what you said. And I said, great, I don't know how to do that. I just didn't know how to do that. That I know how to do. But I didn't know how to do it. I mean, all I knew was I knew Johnny Carson, I knew Steve Allen, I knew the kind of show they did. I taught myself how to do those kinds of shows. But to do shows specifically aimed, I don't even know how you get a clip on the internet. Honest to God, you got to get a guy or a woman, and they put it on the internet. But so, and they would say, "Oh, you got to start tweeting." And I said, "What? What am I going to tweet? Who's going to see it?"
Now, don't ask me. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to have to testify before Congress about my emails anytime soon.
Well, there you go. I wouldn't mind that. That would be fun. But I recognize, and I talked to Biz Stone, Mr. Twitter, years and years and years ago, and I said, describe for me what Twitter is. and he said, "It's my gift to mankind." That's what I thought. But you know, he may be right. He in fact may be right, because we now have a record of interpersonal communications, not just from me to you, not just from me to these people, people all over the world. And what we're going through now with Hurricane Matthew, excuse me, I'm sure Twitter is invaluable. I'm sure in cases like Syria and elsewhere, Twitter has been invaluable. But what I don't care about is Justin Bieber getting a Slurpee at 7-Eleven.
Well, it's interesting, as I was going through a lot of clips from your 33 years on the air, what I realized is that a lot of the little segments that you did, particularly early on, pre-internet, are things that, were they done today, would have been internet sensations. Just great little, you know, out of the office bits. So we're gonna take a look at one of these now. Before we show any clip, I have to say, because none of this stuff is on DVD, you had to pull it off of actual television sets. The quality of these clips is close to the resolution of like the Shroud of Turin. You know, it's so, and you can close your eyes if you don't want to watch. But so,
I still get a fee, right?
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to look at a very quick clip right now of Siskel and Ebert running around door to door in New Jersey.
Roger can play the William Tell Overture on just like a surface with his hands.
Want to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go.
Junior can name all 22 of the helping adverbs.
That's all I got for him.
Go ahead.
Am, is, are, was, were, be, been, do, does, did, have, as, had, shall, should, will, would, can, could, may, might, must, ought.
Who do you like better, Siskel or Ebert? We'll give you $100 right now, no questions asked. Each, you 100, you 100, if you'll let Gene and Roger shave your mustaches off.
Congratulations.
Hope you enjoy that. There you are, that's for you.
Nice going.
I think that would have beat Justin Bieber getting a slushie.
Yeah, perhaps you're right. Perhaps I should never have retired.
Well, the show at the time, the show was fueled by what was then a really radical idea that regular people like this are more interesting and entertaining than Hollywood celebrities. And when you did your first episode of your show, promising viewers a program that was going to show people how to join metal, did the NBC executives know what was coming? I mean, what?
No, wait a minute. I promised people.
No, I'm thinking of the Larry Bud Melman thing at
Right.
the beginning of the first episode,
Yes.
where there's a lot of people, you know, cutaways of people saying, "I'd like to see a program that teaches you how to join
I
metal."
see.
The welding,
Yeah.
the welding bit. And there's a lot of welding over the years, but I just wonder if Lorne Michaels has said that one of the reasons that he decided to make Saturday Night Live a live show is because you didn't have to do a pilot that way, and the network couldn't give you any notes. You know, it's just over and out. And so as I was watching these very early shows, I was wondering, did they know? Did they know what it was going to be, or did they just give you the keys and?
Well, we did have kind of a pilot for the first show at NBC. We had a daytime show that was on for, I think went on Monday and we were canceled on Thursday. So they knew what they were getting. The mystery about that to me was they, right after the Tonight Show, they had the Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder. Tom Snyder was wonderful, just wonderful. What a guy. What an interviewer! What a caricature of himself. He was full of himself. He was intelligent, but he was great. He was perfect at 1:30 or whenever he came on to watch. And he thought he was Ed Murrow, and he sat in a big chair, and he had a cigarette going and the smoke curling up, and it was the perfect kind of show late at night, because in those days, television usually signed off at like 1:30, and that was it. You were dark, you were alone. But Tom helped ease one into the abyss. So I never quite understood why it was Brandon Tartikoff and Grant Tinker who gave me a second chance after we blew up their daytime schedule. So they full well knew what we were up to. And many of the things that we did on that show were because there was a guy named Dave Tebbett who was Johnny Carson's, I don't know how to say it, he was his network, he was like his...
Consigliere?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he came to us one day and he said, okay, you can't have an orchestra, no orchestra. You can't have the same guests as Johnny. You can't do a full monologue like Johnny. And he had maybe 10 things that we couldn't do like The Tonight Show. So that was perfect for us. We then thought, great, let's build a show that's not like The Tonight Show.
Right. Well, when you started out, when late night started out, New York was just kind of coming out of what you could call its Fear City period, you know, when the city was broke and it was dangerous and it was about to turn into the 80s, you know, which was full of insider traders and vulgar rich guys like Donald Trump. But one of the things that you managed to do that was so great is to create a sense of New York for the viewers as if it were a small town. And I wonder if is that just a product of your Indiana roots, or was that a conscious strategy to make everything cozy?
You know what, I've tried to articulate this in the past. And throughout the years of the show, very little of what was seen or is remembered was of my doing. I was always lucky to have people who had great vision. I never wanted to be the funniest person in the room, and never was. I'm not even the funniest person in this room. And the first head writer that we had was a woman by the name of Merrill Markham. And when you invoke the notion of New York as a small town, she would begin her day with the yellow pages, in the old days when there were yellow pages, and she would just go through and look for neighborhood establishments. And she'd find a place, just shades. She'd write down just shades, and then she'd just go, oh, but there are just balls. And so we would go out and we would turn that into comedy. And then the next head writer, I believe, was Jim Downey, who, Jim Downey, if you don't know who Jim Downey is, you're embarrassing yourselves. He, I think, has been the strength and the backbone of Saturday Night Live for 30, 40 years. He wrote for FDR, didn't he? And then after Jim Downey, it was Steve O'Donnell, who again, brilliant, and just, these are people that are so smart that you can hear their brains crackling. And then after that, it was Rob Burnett, and we, you know, it was me. I'm the one who looked good for their efforts. But the things like you're showing there, okay, let's get Siskel and Ebert and go to New Jersey. Well, it seems unlikely that was my idea.
Well, let's look at another clip that gets across this wonderful kind of little Mr. Rogers neighborhood feeling, which is about it's the strong guy, the fat guy.
I can guarantee you this was not my idea. What this is, I had completely forgotten about this. This is insanity. This is, I mean, from where does this idea come?
Do you know?
No, I have no idea. But yet it was, and we went out and we shot it. We got a bodybuilder. We
Look at it.
okay. Let's take a look.
Then tell us about it.
I'll be in the men's
We
room.
have it.
I'd like you to meet three very special friends of mine. You, sir?
A strong guy.
And you?
I'm a fat guy.
And how about you?
Genius.
You guys ready? Let's go.
The strong guy, the fat guy, the genius. God gave them each a special gift at birth. They break it, they eat it, they solve it. That's the reason they rule the planet.
You have something for the strong guy to bust?
Yeah, he's gonna bust the clock.
Oh, a clock. Go ahead. And Rupert, do you have anything for the fat guy to eat?
Yeah, we have some big CD today.
Oh, baked ziti. And how about a question for the genius?
Well, on the periodic chart, what's the symbol for sodium? That would be Na.
Right. He's a genius. Do you have anything for the strong guy to bust?
Yes,
What do you got?
we get stereo.
Cool. And Alex, something for the fat guy to eat?
How about cream cheese? That's suitable for a bagel store.
Exactly.
How much paper is in a ream of regular papers?
It's 500 sheets.
Man, that guy is smart.
The natural enemy of the penguin is the leopard seal.
Mr. Strong Guy, Mr. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. The strong guy, the fat guy, the genius. God gave him each a special gift at birth. Break it, they eat it, they solve it.
The largest state east of the Mississippi would be Georgia.
That's the reason they were full of
Wow. That's remarkable. That's delightful. And I will say, without the music, you have nothing. And Paul Schaefer and the man singing it was Will Lee, who was our bass player. I believe that they were responsible, and perhaps working with a writer, responsible for that song. And once you have the song, for heaven's sakes, pretty much the piece writes itself. I can remember after we aired that, the next day we got a call or a message from Arsenio Hall had a very successful talk show on at the same time ours was on. And we got a call from their writers. And the essence of the message was, holy crap, we're done. Congratulations.
It's pretty great. Well, it's incredibly gracious of you to give credit to all of the smart, wonderful people on your staff. But clearly, as the patriarch of this whole operation, you know, you were curating it. You were finding these people. You were hiring them. You were kind of the wellspring of the vision. And I wonder, you know, talking about your influence, Tina Fey once said, everything about Letterman's show informed not only our comedy, but our actual human interactions. Talking about the scope of your influence. Do you know what she means by that?
Well, that woman is a comedy genius. A fantastic writer, a great actress, a great comedian. I can only presume she was drunk.
I think what she means is that years since you were on the air, you know, irony has become kind of a default setting in not just in television comedy, but in, you know, ads for life insurance and fraternity parties and your accountant and, you know, and just the way we deal with each other. It's an awesome thing, and I'm wondering if you're fully aware of the scope of it.
You know, it's like working, if you're working in let's say an automotive factory, and you're building cars, and maybe you build 800 a day, you don't go home and look at all the cars on the highway and say, "My God, I built all of these cars." You just it's one car at a time. I will say that one thing that culturally that I noticed when we would do these remotes, you saw it with Siskel and Ebert, you saw it with the fat guy and the strong guy and the smart guy, was the use of the cutaway shot to get a laugh. And after we started doing that, I began to think maybe I was seeing it used in commercials. And the origin of that was our first director, Hal Gurney. Again, I've never met anybody like Hal in television. Smart, funny, and would take no bullshit from anybody. And he could use the cutaway shot to get a whole separate joke. And then it was also used then when we would go out and do these remotes. And I think for a long time you saw it used in commercials where you had not seen it heretofore. But God bless Hal Gurney. There was a guy in the control room, and he was amazing. He was the guy I really wanted to be. He was so smart and such a dear guy, and his wit was really dry, just the best.
Well, I've definitely seen that device used in commercials, but I think that it's wider spread than that, and I wonder if sometimes I feel that there's just too much comedy, that everyone,
Yeah.
not just too much comedy on the air, but that there's just too much comedy
Yes.
swirling around us, and
Yes.
I wonder if you,
I
as a
do.
professional, wonder is this the kind of thing, should you be licensed? Should you need a license to be funny, or?
That's an excellent point. I've thought about this myself. Now, when I was a kid, there were no kid movies, no young adult kid movies. It was either you went to the adult movies or you stayed home and watched cartoons on Saturday morning, and that was it. And now, that is pretty much the film market. But I can tell you, and I'm completely sincere. If you're going to write, see, I think there's a lot of shows on TV that aren't funny, that are comedies, and I think that I think we've pretty much beaten the laugh track to death. I don't think that's used as much as it used to be used on every show, and that sabotaged comedy. That really corrupted it. But I think that's waning now, and I think you have shows. Luckily now, like there's a show called Portlandia that for a while I thought I was going to have to go to some kind of rehab to withdraw from watching Portlandia, because it was so true to the precept that we are weird, peculiar, and silly, and they lived up to that every single episode. So we're seeing more and more of that. But let me get back to this other point. If you're thinking about going into comedy, and there's nothing I can do to stop you, you have to know about a man you're familiar with named Bruce McCall. If you don't know about Bruce McCall, if you're not familiar with a book called Zany Afternoons, get it and read it, and if it means something to you and you understand what it is, okay, then you can try comedy. If it goes around you, if it goes above you, if you put it back on the shelf, never to look at it again,
Be a plumber.
I'll come and get you and smack you. He, for me, was the guiding light. Are you funny? Are you not funny? And this guy, I don't know. He's in another universe.
Now I have to say, Bruce, I can promise you, Dave doesn't know you're here. That wasn't. We stand up so we can acknowledge you. Bruce is here somewhere, isn't he?
Where is he?
Where's Bruce?
Where? I don't know.
He is here. Okay.
Oh, there, yeah, there he is.
All right.
No, that's not who I was thinking of.
Well, he's here somewhere. He's hiding. Or he's in the men's room.
And people who know comedy, people we talked about earlier, it ought to be mandatory reading. And not so you can duplicate it, but just, it's the perfect combination of plausibility and silliness. And how many covers has he done for your magazine?
More than I can count.
Endless, yeah.
Incredibly great ones. I had a lot of fun. I told you I was looking at all these old clips, and one that I hadn't seen in a long time was called Dave and Steve's Gay Vacation. They were kind of horsing around on the beach and throwing the football around. And it made, I thought it was just great, and I found myself wondering, I guess it was maybe 15 years ago, I really enjoyed it, and I found myself wondering, gee, I wonder if this could be made today. There's nothing insensitive about it at all, but you know, I'm sure you've paid attention. I mean, I deal with comedy stuff every week in the magazine, and you know, the bar of political correctness and what you can do or what somebody might find offensive shifts all the time, shifts very quickly, and I'm just wondering if you have observed that and what your feelings about that are.
I know exactly what you're talking about. When when we did it, I don't know the year, but it was Steve's idea, and he worked with the writers, and we came up with the concept and shot it, and it was very successful for us. It played great when we aired it. Now, we aired it the last month of our show a couple of years ago, and it was flat. It just didn't look right. And I think what you described is exactly right. The awareness of culture, the education of cultural education had kind of subsumed that as comedy. As you say, there was nothing offensive about it, but still it was just, I think, a realization that, you know what, there's other things you can make fun of.
Do you think this is constricting comedy?
No, I think any education a person can have. I mean, for God's sakes, we're humans. And getting back to Mike Pence, this guy, one of the first things I found out about this guy was he believes if you're a homosexual, all you need is a couple of treatments, you're fine. I just nearly choked on that. If you're a human being, human beings should be, short of hurting another human being, they should be allowed to do what every other human being is allowed to do. Now, I think with that awareness, this piece, well, you'll see for yourself. It's not as funny now as it was.
Well, you can go home and Google it. We're not going to watch it now because it's long. And
Oh, we're not going to watch it now.
No, we're not going to watch it. I
For God's sakes, what am I doing out here?
I thought we were just talking about it.
Yeah, I was very surprised, but I do think it's the result of a collective education about culture and human behavior, and yeah.
Well, I'd love to talk about Carson for a minute. You've said that the first time you sat down next to Carson on the Tonight Show, you felt like you were sitting down next to Abe Lincoln. You know, he was so familiar. I mean, I can say I feel like I'm the one sitting next to Abe Lincoln today. Can you imagine? I have to say something about the beer. But, you know, and I mean, when you were starting out, you moved to LA just to be, because that's where Johnny was. And when he died, you did the most moving tribute to him, you know, describing him as a public utility. Was Carson there from the very beginning as a model for you, for your career and your business life and everything else? Or?
The first person that got my attention on television, there were two people. One was Steve Allen. Steve Allen did a really goofball late night TV show, and he had many incarnations of that. But when it was good, it was just perfect for like a 12-year-old kid. It was lovely. And the other person that first got my attention in comedy was Jonathan Winters. And I can remember the great thing about Jonathan Winters, there were two comedy acts that my dad and I bonded over. Jonathan Winters, we both loved, and Bob and Ray, we both loved. And I have a special place in my heart for each of those three people because of that connection to my dad. Johnny Carson provided he was the pot at the end of the rainbow. You would sit at home and watch The Tonight Show, and a comedian would come on, and they'd say, "Ladies and gentlemen, here's Bob Stevens, and you can see him this week at the Comedy Store." And I thought, the Comedy Store? What are they talking about? And then here's Lois Bromfield. She'll be this week at the Comedy Store. And I found out that the Comedy Store was a place people could get up and do, nascent comedians and do comedy. And so there was clearly a connection between the Comedy Store and the Tonight Show. So that's what pried me out of the comfort of Indianapolis and moved to California. And it worked exactly the way I thought it would work. I went to the Comedy Store the first week I was there, started working at the Comedy Store. I moved in 1975, and in 1978 I was on the damn show. So I thought, geez, if somebody had told me 3 years and you'd be on the Tonight Show sitting there next to Johnny Carson. And it was remarkable. It really was like you're on a bus and you look over and you say, holy crap, it's Abe Lincoln. I've seen you on the $5 bill. How you doing? And he was, there are many people responsible for what success I attained, and no one less than Johnny Carson, because his stamp of approval was far and wide.
Now, in the after he died, when you did this beautiful tribute to him, you revealed at the end of your monologue that all the jokes that you told that night were written by Carson.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so beautifully done because it was, no one knew until the end. And so had he been sending you jokes for all those years after his retirement?
Yes, even while he was still active. The first time I was on the show, and he did this with a lot of comics, during the commercial he would say, the joke you have there about the casket with the skis on it, he said, why don't you try if you move this and just end with that? So he was constantly tutoring. And then when we got the CBS show, I think even the NBC show, he was sending us jokes all the time. And the thing that is, when you watch Carson, it's so troubling to me because the man is effortless. Effortless. And my instinct when things went south on the show was to push and try harder. Not Carson. He was the one, he was the rudder, he was the keel, he was the control of the show. Didn't make any difference what else had happened. You had Johnny. Whereas if the audience is not going for me, I'm out there trying to beat him up to get him to like me. Johnny didn't care because he knew people just loved him. And you look at the first show he did on NBC, you look at the last show he did on NBC, and if you had to chart it on a graph, it would just pretty much be like that. He was so solid.
Now, what happened if, I assume that you didn't use all the jokes that he sent you? Were some of them not quite up to it, or was that all right?
Johnny Carson sends you a joke, you're using it.
It's, I edit Steve Martin at the magazine, and years ago when Carson was still alive, he called me and he said, Johnny Carson would like to submit some humor pieces to the magazine. I thought I would have a heart attack. I'm so excited. Johnny called himself and talked to me about them, and it was, the greatest day in the world. And then when he finally sent the pieces in, oh my God, it was so beautiful. He sent an envelope with a piece, and then in that envelope was also a little self-addressed stamped envelope. What a 21-year-old college graduate does, sending his first unsolicited piece to a magazine. So that if it was a reject, I would just fold it up and send it back to him. The humility of it was so beautiful.
Well, I think that's him. That is Johnny Carson. I too, I have a long history with your magazine. I want to get back to Steve Martin because here's a guy. And I'm not dropping names, but I was on the phone with Steve Martin the other day. We were the conference call with FDR. Was it FDR? And I said, Steve, I need some information about so-and-so. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, where are you right now? He says, I'm in a car going to New Haven. I said, oh, you and Marty Short doing your show in New Haven? And he said, no, I'm working on a play. And I said, oh, God damn it, Steve, stop it. Please, stop being so productive. You're making everybody else look bad. He just had a run on Broadway, and now he's working on another play.
He's a busy guy.
He's a busy guy, and he's, again, if you're going to shoot for somebody in comedy, try to be Steve Martin. Anyway, what were we talking about?
We were talking about Carson, and you know, how he's sending these great pieces.
Yeah. So I used to, when I was a kid, we had a subscription to the New Yorker, and the first thing I would go to look at were the cartoons, of course. And then as I got older, I thought one day a goal of mine would be to write a short story, send it to the New Yorker with a phony name, and get it published. And I still hang on to them.
Why don't we have a great little Carson.
And maybe I have. Maybe, how would you know? Maybe I haven't.
No. So we have a Carson clip. Let's look at that. This is Carson's last appearance. He's visiting your show when you're in LA.
I have a great story. Well, you'll be the judge of that, but I have a story about that.
With tonight's top 10 list, the host of The Tonight Show for 30 years, Johnny Carson. Johnny!
Your words every penny, pinhead. Good night, suckers.
Well, right up to that point, it was so easy I could host it. All right, tonight's top 10 list from the home office in Sioux City, Iowa. Oh, this is not the list. Johnny, can I have the top 10 list?
When he agreed to do this, I went up to his dressing room, and he was there with his wife, Alex. And it was all had been arranged for us by Peter LaSalle, who was a good friend of Johnny's and a friend of mine and one of Johnny's producers forever. And Johnny had no voice. He was gone. It was a laryngitis, and he said through a whisper, I can't really. So I'll just come out. And that's what he did. And he, even without his voice, he was able to captivate that audience, and it was delightful. And he, look at who do you want hosting your show? That guy or me?
Abe Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln.
I thought that he was choked with emotion, but it plays it plays well. Well, just 3 years after you had your first guest experience on the Tonight Show, my old friend, the wonderful late Peter Kaplan, called you Carson's heir apparent. I mean, it seemed clear to everybody that this was going to be your next gig. But after the bizarre turn of events that led to Jay Leno hosting The Tonight Show and you moving to CBS, you were in first place in the ratings for a chunk of time. And,
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. And then slipped behind Leno. Did that torment you?
Yes. Yeah. I was embarrassed by it. Because it's like putting toothpaste back in a tube. What happens there? We didn't know exactly what happened. We just knew that we had lost our way. And for a long time, because one of my precepts of life is always find somebody to blame. I would blame the network. And I used to get in furious fights with Les Moonves, who, he's still there, I'm gone. And we had a fight that lasted a full 24 hours because I thought the problem was not me. I thought the problem was the network. And then I gradually began to realize that it's not the network, the problem is me. And then I was able to make peace with that. But it was simply that a larger number of people liked watching Jay more than they liked watching me.
But didn't you realize, I mean, it always seemed completely clear to me that you might not have been winning in the ratings, but that really you won. I mean, that you had the smart people, you know, you had the people, you had the audience that I'm sure you would want. But I can imagine that acknowledging that goes against some regular guy part of your psyche. But it's kind of a depressing reflection on America to me that more people actually wanted to tune in.
I mean, it wouldn't be.
I'm to me, this seems just incredibly evident.
Well, thank you. What has the greater circulation, the New Yorker or Penthouse?
You know, the magazine industry is such a these days that I don't even know if there's a good analogy.
Yeah. Well, when we got on the air, we thought, oh my gosh, we know everything that everybody wants to watch on television. And then we found out that we didn't. And then when Jay started winning, and it was just like one night he wasn't, the next night he was. And we thought, oh, well, it's anomalous. Well, it wasn't. It went on like that forever. And so that panicked us, and perhaps me, because I was at the head of the thing, we lost our way for a while. And it took a long time to kind of settle back in to find out what we were comfortable doing. But we were, on occasion, we would beat him in the ratings here and there, but not routinely. And it was, I felt bad for the network. I felt bad for my staff. I felt like I was failing the staff. I felt like I was embarrassed for my family. So this was, I got over it, but you know, I still wish that we could have been the #1 late night show.
Well, that's interesting. I guess I would have thought that there'd be some consolation in being the thinking person's talk show host, but you know, numbers are numbers.
Yeah, well, I mean, gosh, if you take a look at some of our shows, you didn't have to think too hard.
let's do it. It's a wonderful life exercise. How would the world be different if you had gotten the Tonight Show then?
I think Jay would have probably taken the show at CBS. The problem with me and the Tonight Show.
But would we have Trump? Would we have Kim Jong-un? I mean, what would the whole world be completely different?
No, the things you would not have had Trump. You certainly would not have had Kim Jong-un. You know, the thing with and I never really talked about this with anybody, but I kept thinking that somebody would ask me to host the Tonight Show. I thought that's how it would work. I didn't know that what you needed to do was go to the network and say, come on, when's this going to happen? So I didn't. And
have a big machine of.
well, I don't want to, get hyperbolic about it, but I think I sent the message that perhaps I wasn't interested, because I had numerous meetings with Brandon Tartikoff over and over and over again, and I can remember one in particular. He said, "So, anything else?" He came in. The ratings on the NBC show were tremendous for a late night show, and he came in and he said, "Anything else?" And I said, "No, everything's great." And it occurred to me years later that anything else might have been the opening of, yeah, I'd like to host the Tonight Show. But I think it worked out all for the better.
I think it's all fine now. It's true that the Tonight Show, the Carson Tonight Show, just doesn't exist anymore. I mean,
no,
it's over.
Yeah, a lot of stuff doesn't exist anymore, but that's all right. It can't be, nothing is static. It has to keep moving. It has to keep changing.
Well, now do you feel that your original NBC show was more experimental than the CBS show? And did you, because you were moving to 11:30, did you consciously try to be less odd?
Yeah, I think they put the fear of God in us, or we allowed the fear of God to be put in us, that there was some insurmountable chasm between 11:30 and 12:30, whereas in 12:30 it was people in small places smoking weed, and that wasn't going to happen at 11:30. So we did make changes, and then when things seemed to work out, we just forgot about all the changes and ended up doing what we wanted to do anyway.
And didn't NBC put some weird restrictions on you? Didn't they say, "Oh, this is our intellectual property"? And a lot of things you created.
Yes, they wouldn't let us take things with us. I got a letter from Don Ohlmeyer, who was running the network at the time, and a guy who I admired, and he had been a big sports guy at ABC, and then he worked at NBC, and I'd gotten along with him pretty well. And he said, "You can't have so-and-so, we couldn't do stupid pet tricks, you couldn't do stupid human tricks, you couldn't do CBS mailbag, or you couldn't do anything really. You can't wear pants," and a lot of things. And then I'll never forget it as Don Ohlmeyer, his signature, and in the O in Ohlmeyer, he put a little smiley face. And I thought, how can I possibly take this seriously? The guy has put a little pup in his signature. And they were and then I'll tell you who was a real hero is Tom Brokaw. Tom Brokaw said, "Screw it, I'm going over there," and he was on our first show. And I thought that was a great mark of courage and a great mark of friendship.
Now, didn't you get around some of these restrictions just by renaming the bits?
Perhaps. I don't know what they would have been, but perhaps we did.
All right, well, that's very resourceful.
Did I say anything about Paul Schaefer yet?
You did. You did. I was going to ask you.
I will tell you, we did 6,000 shows together, and he was the most important part of my life for every one of those 6,000 shows. He is whether the show was good, not good, mediocre, ugly, awful, Paul Schaefer, you could count on him, and fantastic music. And it's the thing that I missed. In addition to my friends that I worked with, not having the great privilege of live music every night. It's a wonderful thing.
It's just fantastic. Music obviously was always a big part of the show, and you had your favorite bands, the Foo Fighters, and of course the Warren Zevon show. And how was Paul part of that? Would Paul introduce you to things? Was he part of your musical education?
Paul was a great influence, and we also had two people who booked the music for the show, and it was a great education for me. Sheila Rogers and Cheryl Zellickson. And Sheila Rogers is working for the Johnny Condon show. I know that's not his name. What's his name?
James Corden.
James Corden. And Cheryl Zellickson is working for the Stephen Colbert show. But the combination of those two, she had done random notes at Rolling Stone forever when she came to our show. So they made me aware of music, and then it got to be to the point where if I had an idea, they would work it into the show. It was tremendous. You would really, some nights the music, the guests would be the high point of the show. I mean, and I don't know if, I still don't know if people stayed up to watch music because we always had to tuck it to the end of the show or not. But for me, if I had somebody that I really liked, really looked forward to, it was a reason to put on the tie.
Let's back up again for a minute. You were talking before about the shows that you watched with your father. When you were a kid, could you watch unlimited television, or were these in before the days when kids had an allotment of TV that they could watch?
Well, when I started watching television, there wasn't unlimited television. It would sign on about 3 in the afternoon and then sign off at like 9 at night. And the first show that we watched routinely in the house was the Ed Sullivan Show, from what is now the Ed Sullivan Theater. And that was it. We would have dinner, we'd get the dishes done, and then we would all, I mean, it was right out of the guy, you know.
David DeBeaver?
Yes. It was just like Leave It to Beaver. Who is it?
Rockwell.
Norman Rockwell. Who said Norman Rockwell? There you go. I'll buy you dinner.
Extra Tiffany ring.
Yes. But that's what it was. And I can remember my mother used to hate Ed Sullivan. She just hated him. And I kept saying, Mom, it's the Russian bears, it's the acrobats. How can you possibly hate Ed Sullivan? And she says, I don't like it that he begs the audience for applause. Well, let's really hear it for him. Come on, everybody. Come on now. Let's hear it for the Bears. And this so offended my mother because she thought, live or die by your performance. Let the audience decide.
Well, I'm sure this whole audience is familiar with your mother, and I wanted to ask you how she is.
My mother is 95 years old.
Fantastic.
And she still plays handball twice a week. We just had, I'll tell you a story about Mom. And God bless Mom. You know, it's Mom, and God bless her again. But Mom's 95. So we all go to Mom's house for her birthday. Now, she has 5 grandkids. Her favorite is my son, Harry. So we're all there, and one of her grandkids is a woman who has a cooking book, and it's like Edible Ohio or something. I don't know. She loves food, and she's very good at it. So her birthday gift to my mother, this is in August, is a tub, sort of not unlike that, but squattier, a tub with a lid on it of homemade butter, home churned butter. And the woman's in her 40s, her name's Bryn, and a lovely, lovely woman. And I said, holy crap, what are you, Amish? So now everybody is oohing and eyeing over homemade butter. Now another one of her grandkids, Bryn's brother, owns a bakery in Chicago. So he's baked something about the size of this table that's bread. So now I'm thinking, holy crap, here we go, bread and butter. So there's a great discussion raging about the butter and on and on and on and on and on. And Mom, who's hearing, is not dependable. So they hand the tub of homemade butter to Mom, and she opens it up, and it becomes clear that she believes it's hand cream.
I bet it does the trick.
Yeah. Hey, trying to get the dog off her. Now, I know it's not nice to have fun in a 95-year-old woman, but then when we got that straightened out, and the paper towels and everything, the homemade butter and the homemade bread, well, call the cops.
So let's get back to the here and the now. Now, I'm sure the audience would like to hear about this program that you're doing, that you've done with National Geographic about climate change, which is being broadcast in the next soon, right?
I think the end of October. It was,
talk about that a little
yeah, I'd love to talk about it. And I'll tell you the origin of my interest in this. And then, when was the last time we heard any good news about the climate? Well, I don't think we have. I just saw the newspaper the other day that it is 400 parts per million now of carbon dioxide. And that was, I think, supposed to be some kind of a threshold. So I was contacted by these people and they said, would you like to do a segment? And I said, yeah, because I can remember, I think it was President Obama when he was running to be president, said something that's become a cliche, but it stuck with me, and what he said was, what are we going to tell our kids when they say to us, wait a minute, you knew the climate was changing and you did nothing about it? And so I thought, holy crap, yes, let's do something about it. And I became converted in a very aggressive way. I thought, by God, I got a kid, and I want to be able to tell him that I did something. So this fit right in that plan of mine, so we go to India. And folks been to India? Really? Somebody says, woo! And I'll tell you something, India didn't really start as a country until 1950. And now the United States is in some way, directly, indirectly, saying, well, now wait a minute. You can't be burning coal if you think you want to do so-and-so, and you can't be doing this if you think you want to do so-and-so. Well, that's all well and good for us to say. We had like a 200-year head start on India. We had our own industrial revolution. India's got a 1.2 billion people, which they regard as a resource. That's a huge resource. It's a very young population. And they are, the point of our story was the 400 million people in India without electricity, 400 million people. And Prime Minister Modi wants to electrify these people. And the goal he has set, and everything about India is hyperbolic because of the numbers, because of the size. He wants to electrify via solar grid 7,000 homes a day. A day. Try and get the cable guy to come out to your house before Labor Day. While people like Modi, some people dislike Modi, everybody is very optimistic that this can be done, but they need help. And my feeling about it is, let's turn India loose. Let's do everything we can. If they want to be the leader in renewable energy, the country that is the leader in renewable energy is the country that will rule the world. And why not? If they're willing and committed, turn them loose. Let's go. I saw poverty like I'd never seen before, but what I didn't see was suffering. Now I'm sure people are suffering, and I'm sure the poverty in parts of Africa are much, much worse than they are in India. But it was quite an awakening experience, from simple thoughts to moments of great depression. The Indira Gandhi Airport, 2 years in a row, named the #1 airport in the world. Great. As soon as you walk outside, it smells like somebody's burning furniture. And that never leaves. We were there 2 weeks, and it always smelled like somebody burning furniture, because I think they burning furniture.
Also dung, they burn.
Well, that was an interesting thing. You talk about cultural, the way culture is ingrained in people and vice versa. We went to visit people living in a mud hut, and not unusual. And it was a matriarch, and 3 girls, I think. So they have a kerosene lantern, and the 3 girls study by the kerosene lantern. And I've not been around kerosene much, except parties at fraternities. But it's an oily, gummy residue, yeah. And these little girls were studying by the light of this oil lamp. And people have provided these communities, these villages, with solar stoves. And they throw them away because they would rather cook their meals on dried dung. They prefer the taste. If you've been to the Shake Shack, you know what I'm
Do you think you'll be doing more of these kinds of projects, or do you have any comedy projects in the works?
Well, you know, I was so touched by this experience, and I haven't seen it yet, and I don't know if it's any good. I want it to be good. I wanted to do their show. I would love to do more things like this, because selfishly, the education is phenomenal, and if it translates to somebody else giving thought to this problem or any other problem, I'm all for it. I loved it. I loved the people we went with. From when they got done with the Indian project, they went to Niger in Africa to address the problem of climate refugees. And the statistic that stuck with me there is that from 1970 to date, because of drought and obviously political upheaval and tribal warfare and so on and so forth, but because of climate change from 1970 to now, there have been 1 billion people leave that part of Africa. So, you know, I don't know, there's a lot to think about. And then Matthew, is that a symptom of climate change? Hard to believe that it's not. Maybe it's not, but it's certainly, you know, the drought in California and Arizona, the wildfire season used to be between like July and October, the first snow, and now in certain parts of the country it's year-round. It's just, I wish I was smarter on this topic, but it's hard even for a dumb guy to deny that we're, and I feel bad for my son, and we feel bad for our kids, because, you know, when I grew up in the 50s, I don't know, we just can't leave the planet a smoldering cinder for other people.
Well, I could ask you questions for hours more, but I want to make sure that the audience has...
Oh, no, no, we talked about this.
Anyone who has a question, you can line up. Do you want them to line up, or are we going to pass microphones? Rory, do you want people to line up, or are we going to pass?
The microphones are
the microphones being set up in the aisles. While people are lining up, let me ask Dave just one other question. I did hope that you could tell us a little bit more about what you do during an average day when you're not having to come into the city and talk to people on 23rd Street.
Most of the day, I just sit around waiting for Ellen to come on.
Podcasts?
No, I do a lot of stuff. The family and I did a great deal of traveling this summer, and it was delightful. We were in Montana for about 6 weeks. We were in Martha's Vineyard for about 6 weeks. We went to Japan for 2 weeks, and it was fun. You know, when you live and die with your kids, and if your kids are having fun, you don't care. And we got a lot of that done. And my son, who is here tonight, and I have one regret about the old show, which was on that final night. I introduced my son and his buddy Tommy Rabato, and I didn't ask them to stand up and take a bow, and I wish I had. And tonight, before this evening, I said to Harry, who was in the audience, I said, Harry, can I have you stand up and take a bow tonight? And he said, no.
I need a one-word answer to this question, then we'll go to these good people. Does your son think you're funny?
No. I will tell you something. My son is funny. He's so funny, and in a delightful. He's going to turn 13 soon, and I was just sick because when they're this, you want them this way forever.
Oh no, they get better.
Yeah. Well, I get to push him around now, so it's a lot of fun. He's a very, very charming fellow. Oh, stand up and take a bow, Harry.
All right, we'll start with a question over here.
Hi. Since your retirement, what other, I'm sure you've gotten other kind of offers to come back to television. What kind of offers have you gotten?
What is your name, sir?
Oh, Brian.
Where are you from, Brian?
Reading, Pennsylvania.
What do you do for a living?
I work at Toys R Us.
All right. Yes, I have had offers. What I get is people say, well, what would you like to do? And I have to say, well, you know, I did what I would like to do. I get offers like a lot of cameo work. Like somebody was doing a movie, it was Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah, Spider-Man, and they said, would you like that you would be a street vendor in Spider-Man? And I don't think that there is a device invented today that's capable of measuring the amount of time it took for me to hang up the phone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
Switch to the north side.
Thanks, Dave, for coming.
What is your name, sir?
My name's Nitin.
Nitin, where are you from?
I'm from here in New York.
Good for you.
Thanks for coming and talking a little bit about the show.
Thanks for sitting through it. I just pray to God that there have been shows here under the aegis of the New Yorker that are more dull than this one.
I wanted to get your feedback on something that Norm Macdonald had said about your show. I mean, obviously, you know, he's a great admirer of yours, and I think you of him. But he said that he figured out that your show was, you were in on the joke, the audience was in on the joke, the at-home audience was in on the joke, and the guest was the joke.
I'm sure that happened from time to time, but I don't know that that was what we were attempting to do. But since you brought up Norm Macdonald, I recently saw his, I don't know, is it a webcast or what do they call him?
He has a new book, but it's even
I read the book, yeah. The book is insanely funny and about 60% bullshit, but it's insanely funny. But he's got a thing, I don't know where.
A video podcast.
That's right.
What's Steve O'Donnell?
That's exactly right. And I was watching it the other day, and it was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Norm Macdonald is an undermined natural resource of this country. He's funny, he's charming, he's intelligent, and the fact that he isn't somehow involved in mainstream comedy, I don't get. But yes, thank you for bringing it up.
You mentioned that you were going to be on a show, is that?
Yes, I would be on his show, yeah.
Great.
They do it in California, and yeah, I'm going to be on his show. Thank you.
Yes, hi. I'm Norma. I'm from Honolulu.
Of course you are, Norma.
Right. And you can see from my age, I probably watched you a long time from the time you used to get in the tank and when you did the Will It Floats.
Yes. God
My
bless you.
question is not intelligent, but people always ask me, and I would, why do you wear white socks?
That's a good question, Norma.
Thank you. That's it.
When this comes up, and it is the most frequently asked question, and I don't mean to embarrass anyone, but let's take a good look at these socks.
These socks.
Now seriously, ma'am, what color are these socks? They're gray. You said taupe?
It's the taupe.
Oh, get out of here. The woman said taupe. But they're gray. And, you know, so kill me. I got a deal at Target. Thank you.
Back over here.
Hi, my name's Eamon. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You were mentioning leaving NBC to CBS. There's a perception that you were given the boot from CBS. Was there a bit of a heave-ho going on there?
When I left CBS?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was fired. I was fired. They just said, all right, we've had enough of you. We know what you're doing. Get out of here.
So
it was the last year of my contract was 1 year. And it was, I wanted it 1 year, and my friend Les Moonves agreed that it would be 1 year. And I said, look, if any time between now and then you want to make a change, just let me know. And he said, don't worry about it. We'll talk at the end of the year. So it was a mutual. And believe me, I probably was there too long. But no, I was not fired.
thank you.
Do you have a job now?
No, I'm out of work. So
Were you fired? I heard you were fired. Not what I heard. Yes, sir.
My name's
Logo guy.
Chris from Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Yes, Chris.
My question is, did you have a lot of interaction before the shows with the guests, and did you ever have like an inclination of how it would go? Like specifically, the interviews in my mind would be like the Crispin Glover interviews and the Joaquin Phoenix ones, where it was really bizarre. Did you see them before the show, and did you usually get an inclination of what would happen?
No, never. This is from old school Johnny Carson. I never talked to a guest before the show. Yes.
And I was just wondering, during the last year of your show, so many comedians came out and spoke about how important you were to them and to the field of comedy, and I really found it very, very moving, and I'm just wondering how much of that you got to read, and how you honestly felt about the comedy world, and thinking of you in those ways.
Well, I was surprised and more than a little touched. So we talked about Norm Macdonald and Ray Romano. I remember these guys looked like they might be on the verge of tearing up, and I was stunned because, like I said, we just would do a show night after night after night after night, and you never get to appreciate what is happening on the horizon, and this is a case of that. And we had the funniest of the funny on our show, and for them to, like I said, I was never the funniest guy in the room, and that was certainly true every night. So it was quite meaningful to me.
So it was really a surprise for you.
It was a surprise
to hear
me,
how
yes.
people thought about you.
Yes, it really was. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dave Garb. Born and raised New Yorker. I went to college in St. Louis,
Where?
around
Where is it?
Washington University.
Yes, big journalism school, right?
Yeah, big journalism, big med school. Right around 2001, September 2001 happened, and I remember looking for normalcy at that time, being away, and I ended up turning to you, and you were a big part of bringing us back to normalcy at that time. What did you think your role was? As I think a lot of the nation did turn to you that night when you watched, and what were your memories, and what do you think your role was during that time?
Wow. My family and I, that week, had been in Montana, and we watched it all on television. And as a result, I had quite a lot of time to think about what I might say, and honestly, I didn't know. It seemed like one of those moments where, good Christ, what? Honestly, what? And my inspiration for the remarks came from Rudolph Giuliani. This was the old Rudolph. And I honestly just had to kind of talk my way through it. And then Dan Rather was there, and I just remember Dan Rather grabbing my arm and starting to cry. And I just thought, oh, God. As you remember, and everybody remembers, nothing made sense for a long time, did it? It's just nothing made sense. And then I think Regis was on the show. And then I started to make fun of Regis. And for just those 7 or 8 minutes, the world, for me, kind of righted itself because I could make jokes about Regis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Man on the tie.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
My name is Pat McLeod. I'm a comic from Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I came here just for you tonight.
Oh, God bless you.
And I went to Emerson College and I majored in television broadcasting, and the other reason why I do comedy.
Oh, good. And are you successful at comedy?
I'm trying to.
Yeah. Where do you work?
The Comedy Studio.
I don't know where that is.
Cambridge, Mass.
Oh, Cambridge, Mass. That Comedy Studio.
Yes. And I want to be a late night host like you, and I don't know if you could give me some advice.
Get out of the business. Geez, I don't know. I mean, first of all, let me just say one thing. Is it Chris?
Pat. Bob.
I just don't know why there's so many late night shows. It's 2016. and nothing against you being male, but it would be, I think, I would be happy to watch a woman, I think you mentioned Samantha Bee. When is her show on?
I don't know because I don't stay up late, but
Yeah.
somebody here knows.
Monday night.
I'm sorry?
Monday night.
Monday night on
TBS.
TBS. I don't know. I mean, you've got two Jimmys and a Stephen. I don't know. And good luck to you getting your own show. I'm sure you're hilarious. But I don't know. Am I wrong about this? Would it be nice to have? I mean, there are plenty of funny women.
And it will. Don't worry.
Good Lord. All right. Thank you very much.
You
Good
know,
luck.
could I take a picture with you and Susan?
No.
Well, I have to cut you off. I apologize.
Yeah, come on up. I mean, you got a tie and everything. Let's hurry.
Gabbing a little bit too long,
Hurry up. Come on.
and this
Take
has
it.
to be the last
Take it.
question.
Come on, take it.
Can you ask a question while he's doing the picture then?
Yeah.
And then that's the last question. I'm terribly sorry.
Okay.
It's a big man to do a talk show, son. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
I'll ask a quick.
Question.
Hey Dave, how's it going?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Andrew, Brooklyn.
Andrew, good to see you here.
Yeah, man, you too. This is an honor. So my question, I guess, is Susan was saying, you know, it's true. It's undeniable that you and your show changed the nature of comedy and of humor in this country. No disrespect to all the talented folks doing it now, but I think for a lot of us it's not the same. My question is, do you ever miss it? Because we miss you.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's very sweet. That's very sweet. You know, I don't miss it. It's
I knew you were going to say that somehow.
Yeah, it's for younger people, men and women. And I'll tell you what I do miss. I mentioned the music. For a year, it took me a while to uncondition myself. Because when we did 6,000 shows, I took a shower at the same time every day. I got my makeup put on every day at the same time. I tied my tie every day at the same time. I was introduced to go out and do the warm-up every day at the same time. And this clock becomes your personality and your way of life. You wake up and you do A, and you work your way through the alphabet, and then the next day you do it all over again. And I do miss that. By the way, I've had a lovely time here this evening. So this is all I need, really. Thanks.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Is that it?
A lot of fun. Little Craig is coming
And number 10, we love you. And if there is missing 2 to 9, you have to fill it.
All right.
You need you to fill the
That's
rest
very
of the
sweet
top
of you.
10.
What is your name, ma'am?
Galina.
Galina?
I came from Russia, and I studied English with Sesame Street. But then I graduated to Letterman. Believe me, I learned my language through you and your jokes.
Oh,
and,
well, that's very nice to
I know,
hear.
and all the references.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I mean...
Dave, may I ask you one question?
Wait, what do I have
Do
to
you
put?
have any interest in purchasing the old late nights?
I'm sorry, purchasing what?
Purchasing your old late night shows.
Yeah, sure. Do you have them?
I do have them.
We'll talk to you now.
All right.
Do we know this man?
Yeah.
I know. Oh.
I know, I did something.
Thank you very much.
They knew.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.